Welcome everybody. I'm Kathy Faulkner. As Amy said, I'm the Director of MLS. Joining me for this presentation are our MLS instructors, Gil Padwick, Barbara Bach, Heather Reeves, and WJ Miles. Now, for those of you in the service centers and on the simulcast, you can't see their faces now, but you will see them when they come up to do their presentations. And I'm so glad to see all of you online and in the service centers and here in Dallas. We created this course especially for you guys. You use the MLS very different from an agent. And so we wanted to make sure that we came together as a group and showed you different ways to use the MLS so that it will complement your daily work for the offices or the real estate agents that you serve. Okay? Now we're going to start off with talking about adding listings. Now, I'm not going to show you how to put a listing in because you guys already know how to do that, okay? But what I want to show you is some helpful hints, some shortcuts that'll help make your life easier as you're putting in listings. Now, I'm in the input function and I'm going to click on Add New, and I'm going to choose residential just like you would normally do when you're putting in a listing, okay? Now, I'm going to show you some of the fill functions where you can use either the tax record to fill in the blanks, or you can fill in the information from a previous listing. And we're going to start with fill from Realist tax. So this is going to pull your listing data from the tax system. So I'm going to go down and choose my county, and then I'm going to add the street address of the property I'm going to enter. And I'm going to click on search. And now I'm going to choose the property that I want, that I'm entering into the MLS. Again, these are from the public record. This is from the tax system. And notice a lot of the blanks are now filled in. The city, the county, the school districts, the parcel ID number, the year built. All of those items are filled in for you. Okay, so that's a great tip, right? Okay. Now, let me show you another way to fill the information from a previous listing that I think you'll find beneficial. Now, again, this has to be a listing that was within your company. It can't be from another office, another agent. It has to be within your company for this to work. But if you're relisting a property, this is going to be a great tool. Your data entry will be minimal if you use this function. Now, when you're putting in a listing, it automatically defaults to fill from existing listing, okay? I'm going to scroll here. I remember the street address, or if you have the old MLS number, you can absolutely use that. And I'm going to I'm going to fill in the address, click on search. And here is that old listing that I want to fill, and I'm going to click on the word fill, F-I-L-L. I know with my Texas accent it sounds like feel, like, no, it's F-I-L-L, fill. And notice, look at all the information that's been filled in for me. Now I don't have to do, my data entry is going to be very minimal. Now the next thing I want to talk to you, and I want to stress that this is a very important piece of data entry, and that's the map. Now some of you are going, yeah, but I don't know where this listing is. I've never been there before. My agent has been there. But I'm going to tell you it's critical that if you don't map it, then get the agent to come sit with you and make sure that they say that yes, it's mapped correctly. More and more people are getting away from using like the MapsGo or MLS areas. They don't even know what that is, okay? So they use the ability to draw shapes on the map to locate properties. If your property's not mapped correctly, it's not going to be part of their search results, okay? So notice on this one it says map not found. So it didn't automatically map it. Normally it does. It normally automatically maps it. So in this case, there's three ways you can map a property. The first place I'm going to go to is update map. And I'm going to click on that link to the right that says update map. Now it looks like it mapped it correctly. So if I'm good with that, I can save it. Now, if it didn't, the next step is going to be get latitude and longitude from the address. So it's going to go out and use the address in the city to try to map it. Well, if that's a failure, then there's a third option, and that's set latitude and longitude manually. Okay, that means that you can actually find the property and manually drop a pin or drop the map pin onto the map manually. Now, I've done this before. It can be a challenge, okay? Because especially in new subdivisions, Bing Maps has a problem finding them. So what I've done is I found I go to Real Being Maps, and then I find an address that's nearby. And then I move the map this way or that way to get me to the property. And then I can place a new pin by clicking on the link Place New Pin, and I can actually go to the parcel and click, and it will drop the pin. Or if maybe the pin is already there but it's off a few, because again, new properties are just not quite there, you can actually drag the pin to another location. Okay? So I just wanted to show you that. It's I can't stress enough that it's important that these properties are mapped. And I know you're in a little bit of a pickle because you don't know, you didn't go out to that listing appointment, so you're not 100% sure. But if it doesn't look quite right to you, then get the listing agent to come sit with you and look at it and say, yes, it's mapped correctly, or no, it's not. And you'd be surprised at how many are not mapped correctly upon data entry. Okay, and it's turned into a real issue, and so I think that will be very helpful for you guys. Okay. Now, from the property map, I want to talk about some other data entry things that I want you to keep in mind. Down on the remarks, please make sure you're putting in please make sure you're putting in the public driving directions, actual directions to the property. Don't see Google Maps, use Maps Go, so-and-so. You know what? These remarks go to consumer portals like Realtor.com. So someone from Detroit sees, Maps Go 53H, they're like, what is that? They don't know what Maps Go is. Maps Go was never there. And a lot of people now don't even have a clue what a Maps Go is. Okay, so some of you in the room may go, I don't know what a Maps Go is. But for many years, our systems were based a lot on Maps Go. It's done, it's over. We need to move on from here. And make sure that you actually put as much driving directions as possible. Tell them how close it is to a freeway system. They may want to commute, and they want to know how close it is to the interstate. Something along those lines that gives them a general idea of where the listing is. Now, back to the general tab, I want to give you a couple of more hints that might help you. So let's say you're putting in a listing, but you're not quite ready to make it active. Okay? If you'll leave a couple of blanks, a couple of fields blank, then it won't allow you to save it as active. Okay, so we always recommend leave a blank like list price, list date, expiration date, or all three. Leave those blank until you're ready to make it active. That way, if you accidentally made it active, it won't let you, because those pieces of information must be filled in. That way there's no accidents, because that's one of those calls we get. Oops, we made it active, we want to put it back to incoming. We can't make it, we can't go backwards. Okay, so the only solution is to do a cancel, and then we got to get Netris involved, which is the MLS organization. There's some things that we can do locally, but there's a lot of things that they have to help us with. And so it's a lot better if you just leave those pieces of information blank until you're ready to go live with the listing. Okay. Another area that I want to point out is the status tab, because when you look at the status tab initially, you look and it looks like incoming is highlighted, and you're thinking, I'm saving it as incoming because it looks highlighted, correct? Actually, active is the default setting. And actually, active is what is chosen if you look on my screen here. So make sure that you're choosing incoming if that's your intent. If you have everything filled in, but you're still not ready, make sure you click and save it as incoming instead of active, because it's going to default otherwise. Okay? All right. Now, let's move on. Now, a couple of things that we get calls about is once we make a listing active, oops, I didn't put in the correct list date. I'm going to tell you, and my theme of today is always call us. If we see a lot of, oh, geez, I'm just going to cancel it, and then that creates a problem. Oh, geez, now people's going to see a canceled listing because there's history, and, it's kind of like the more you do, the further, the deeper the hole gets, okay? So just know that we can fix it, okay? And probably 99.9% of the time, we can fix it. Don't cancel the listing, okay? If you have a list date that's not correct, all we want you to do is email us, give us the address and the MLS number, and then what change needs to be made. Now, we will need some documentation showing the list date and what it should be. And that's one of those things we can't fix, but we can send it to Netris, and then they'll have it fixed within a few hours, and it resets the days on market, because I know that's an issue, okay? So make sure, whatever you're doing, call us, okay? If you think you've gotten in too deep, okay? Just give us a call, we can fix it. Same thing for list price. So if you accidentally made it active, you go, oh my gosh, I didn't put the 0 in, and now it's 100,000, it's supposed to be 1 million. That's a problem, right? We can fix it, we can fix it. Go ahead and make the change to the list price. Email us, let us know that you need the original list price corrected, that it was a mistake. And also, again, we just need that one page of your listing agreement showing us what the real list price was, and then we'll send that to Netris, and then they will correct the original list price, and then they'll also remove the price change history. Okay? All right. So again, anything that comes up, we can 99.9% of the time we can fix it, or we can have it fixed. Okay? Now let's talk about some editing capabilities. And I'm just going to cancel this. Okay? Now, I do want to show you, let's see, some editing issues here, and I'm going to go to input. Now, if you need to edit a listing, a lot of times, now some of you work across multiple offices, you can do a quick modify, and you'll have a couple of layers here. You'll have to choose the office, and then you'll have to choose the listing agent. But from this list, you can actually choose any, and I have a lot of display listings that we experiment a lot. And so if I were to click on any one of these MLS numbers, it's going to bring that listing right up for me. Okay, so that's a good shortcut. Otherwise, I've got a listing here that I'm just going to put in the MLS number. Let's talk about some edit issues. Now, there's a new feature, y'all may not know that they've added this, and it's listing data checker. In the old system, for those of you who were here when we had the previous system, there was a check it button after you put a listing in. Now they've added it, it's back, and it's called listing data checker. Now, the listing has to be active with an MLS number before this link will actually work. So it won't work on an incoming listing. Okay, so it has to be made active. But once it's active, you can actually go in here and see if the data checker's flagged anything. If it had flagged anything it flagged would be in bright red letters. It would be very obvious what the problem is. Okay, and it even will tell you if there's any issues with your remarks, directions, public, remarks, because there can't be any contact information in the public driving directions. There's certain words that it looks for so that there's not any fair housing issues. So make sure that you're using this, because I think it'll be a great feature, and then that way you can go ahead and get corrections made, and then the data checker will not be sending out emails, because I know y'all love data checker emails, right? We all love the data checker, right? Okay. So another thing I want to talk about is extending a listing. Now, if it's not expired yet, and the expiration date is coming up, you can actually absolutely use the residential link and change the expiration date. Again, as long as it's prior to the expiration of the listing. Okay? If it has already expired, within 3 days after expiration, you can reactivate it, but don't go to the residential link. Go to change to active. What we're seeing is people are going to the residential link, making the change to the expiration date. Well, that doesn't make it active again, and then it locks it down. You can't get back to it even to use the change to active link. Okay, so make sure if it's expired within 3 days, you can go into change to active, extend the expiration date, and save it, and it'll make it active again, and it'll have a back on market status. Okay. All right. Let's talk about closing a listing. Now, believe it or not, this is happening a little more than I fixed one yesterday. So, the sold price is right above the sold date. And it's easy to get off a line. I totally get it. Totally get it. So people are accidentally putting in the sold date into the sold price. And then they're like, I don't know where that number came from. I'm like, oh, it's the sold date. So be careful. We can fix it, though. That's something we can fix. That's easy. So just kind of be careful, but I've been seeing that more and more. Also, on the sold price, people are making the assumption, in the search, you don't have to put all the zeros at the end. Well, you do in data entry, including the sold price. So we've caught several where they put in 300 instead of 300,000 because they thought that we were going to fill in the zeros at the end, and it doesn't. So make sure you're putting all your zeros in. I think you guys know that already, okay? Also on the selling agent, if you're dealing with somebody that's not part of our MLS, which happens, maybe it's an agent from Houston and they're not from our MLS, then you would report that person as a non-MLS. And the code for non-MLS, write this down. Well, you don't have to write it down. You should have all gotten a handout that has all that information in it, okay? It is the number 9 8 times. It's the number 9 8 times, and it's in your little handout that we passed out. If you didn't pick one up, you should have them there for you to pick up, okay? So remember, number 9 8 times, and that is the non-member code. Now let's talk about some other issues that we deal with in our department that you may have to handle. Again, data checker. If some of you want to be on the data checker email list and you're not, we can manually add you. Just send me an email, Kathy@dfwre.com, and I can add you to the distribution list for that company. You won't get the first notices. Only the listing agent gets the first notices, but you will get subsequent. You will get subsequent. And actually, I can add you to the distribution list per agent individually. I don't know if you want to do that. If you only work with one agent, that would be a possibility. We can add you to their distribution list and you get all the same notifications that the listing agent gets, okay? So keep that in mind. Again, on the email that comes through, the data checker will, in red, show you the problem with the listing. Now, data checker is not always correct. Believe it or not. It's wrong sometimes. So if that's the case, that email, reply to it. And actually, we have staff who watch those email replies, and they will work with you either to make the correction. So if it needs to be corrected, and they can't, like you can't change an address, just reply and say, can you please correct the street name? We'll be happy to do that for you. Or, hey, data checker is wrong. It's not, that's not the correct, city, state, whatever. Then we will work with you on that. I will tell you, though, that if it's being taxed by a particular city, that's the city it has to be on the listing. We won't fudge on that, okay? But sometimes the MLS area is wrong, things like that. Sometimes it wants you to spell out county road and you put CR. We're okay with you putting CR. In the rural areas, it's way different. You don't search by the street names anyway. So we're flexible on some things. Just reply to those emails if you see that, hey, this should be okay, and we'll waive those, okay? All right. There's also some other data checker emails that go out that I know give some of the admins heartburn. And those are courtesy notifications. And again, remember, they're courtesy notifications. They're just red flags going, hey, we have a 72-hour rule on closing a listing. And that one's a newer one, and it's a courtesy. We don't take any further action. It's just kind of a reminder. The MLS rules say that you have to close a listing within 72 hours. Okay? So don't get upset. It's okay. But when those first went out, though, some of the offices found out that there was some issues, and so not you guys because you're here, right? But there were some issues with people just not getting it done, right? Exactly. So now there's some other emails that I manually pull. I do these every day because I have an auto email that's going out, and that's restricting showings. We don't have a coming soon status, okay? So the MLS is not the place to put a coming soon listing until you're ready to show it, okay? So once it's active in the MLS, it needs to be ready to show. So if you have one of your agents that's doing this, you probably want to go back and say, hey, you're going to get an email from Kathy about this, and you're going to have to be able to make it for showing. So keep that in mind. We've already talked about the mapping issue, so make sure it's got actual directions. And also, you have a sheet that I passed out that is for statuses and an explanation of statuses. And so I know that is a very confusing topic. We've actually got a video, and all of you are going to receive an email after today that's got video content and other links to some shortcuts that will help you. So there's a discussion about the different statuses. And so if you ever need an explanation of the difference between an active, contingent, and a pending, it's explained on this document, and you have it there. Yeah, you should have picked it up when you came in. If you didn't, ask for it, and it'll also be emailed to you. So I know that the statuses, especially when it comes to the active contingent, active kickout, active option, those can be kind of confusing. Okay? All right, guys. It is time for me to turn the floor over to Mr. W.J. Miles, and he's going to talk to you about the listing widgets. So, great. Thank you, guys.
Well, hi everyone. We know that you use MLS differently than what an agent does, so I'm going to show you some things that you can do to make your life easier using the MLS. So let me get us back to the home page here. On the home page, as you know, you can make your home page look any way that you want it to look. You can move widgets around, or boxes, some people call them boxes, and name is widget, but you can grab the title bar, just roll up over the title bar, hold down your left mouse key, put that anywhere that you would like for it to be. When you exit out of the program, it's going to remember the last view that you had there, and when you come back into the program, it's going to show you that exact same view. In your My Listings widget, if you go down to My Office Active Listings, you can click on that. It's going to show you a report there. Well, you don't need subdivision. You don't need a lot of this information on here. Maybe you're looking for a listing that is by a particular agent, and you want their to find their name and their telephone number on all these listings. You can modify this report so that it has the information on there that's valuable to you. So if you don't want a subdivision, you can just roll up over the subdivision field here, get your mouse in the gray header and left mouse click. A little box will pop out, and you can hit remove column, and that'll take that column out for you. If you want to put another column in, you would go to the column that you want to put that information to the right of. So maybe we want to put it to the right of the address. Then you would go up and you would left mouse click again on that column header, and you would do insert column. So maybe you want the agent's name on there. You can type in the word name in the search box there. It's going to show everything that has a name. So you would look for listing agent, full name, highlight it, and then hit the apply button. It's going to put that agent's name right there next to the address for you. Well, maybe you want the agent's telephone number too, so you don't have to look that up every time. So you would go to the agent's name here, left mouse click, insert, and search for phone. It's going to show you any fields that have the phone there, and there's the listing agent direct work phone. You would click on it, hit apply, and boom, it would put that phone in there for you. You can also rename the column so that it doesn't take up so much room. See how this one takes up a lot of room just to have the title in there? If you go back up to the header, left mouse click, you can shorten that title to just the part of it that's pertinent to you. So maybe you just want to put agent phone and hit apply. And then you can size that column also to make it where it doesn't take up so much room. By grabbing the right edge of the column, you can make it as big or as small as you want it to be. So that helps you to get the information on there that you want. One of my pet peeves is current price is way over here on the right hand side. A lot of times it's off the screen. I prefer to have that over where it makes more sense for it to be. So you can move columns around by grabbing the header and moving it around. So it's great, you get this all done, and then you close your web browser and you come back in and you lose it again. To prevent from losing that, you want to go up and save this display view. Notice we're on the agent single line view, but if I want to save this and make this my view, I would come up to this little icon in the top right hand corner. That's a blue sheet with a yellow pencil on it. You click on it and it will allow you to rename this view. So you could call it my view, my default, Jane's view, John's view, whatever you want to name it. I'm just going to call it the admin view since we're having the admins here today. And I'm going to hit, whoops, if I could spell, Well, I had it right, didn't I? There we go. Admin and save as a copy. Now notice it says display my admin view. Then you can make this your default each time you come in here by going up to the little gear in the top right hand corner. Click on that and you can set this view in sort order as your default if you would like. Okay, so it gets your information on there, makes it more usable for you. If we go back to search, I'm going to show you some things you can do on a search also. If you go to search residential quick, you can add fields to this search that you would search on. Agents might add fields for searching for properties, but a lot of times you're just going to be searching for agents or offices or things like that. If you scroll to the bottom of any of the searches, there are the additional fields that you can add. We're going to hit the add button, and on the additional fields you might want to look for the MLS ID of an agent. There's the listing agent MLS ID, and there's the office MLS ID. So I'm going to add both of those. Or maybe you want to search for listings by an agent's name. If you type in name and look for listing agent last name and hit add, then you can hit the back button. Anytime you see navigation built into a web page, they went to that trouble for a reason. Make sure that you use that navigation on the web page rather than hitting the back button in the web browser. So we're going to hit the back on the page there, and now when we scroll down to the bottom, these fields are added for us so that we can search on that. So maybe I want to look for just active listings for a particular agent. Then I would type in their license number and it would show me the active listings for that agent. Okay, maybe we want to see the active listings for an office rather than an agent. I'm going to remove that and put in an office code here, and this is just our department's code there. So I see 6 matches, hit results, and it shows me all the active listings in that office. Maybe I want to go back, and instead of looking for an office code, maybe I want to see by an agent's last name. I can type in their last name and hit results. Now you may find different agents there because there's going to be agents with different the same last name but be in different offices. So just use the fields there that help you to search and to find the information that you need there. One last thing I'd like to show you is on the home page there is a search box. On this search box, if someone calls into your office and they just give you an address, you don't know whether it's an active listing, a lease listing, a sale listing, put that in this box, and this is a cross-property search. So if I look for 2656, and we get real creative in our test environment and name things. So a test drive here, and I hit search, it will take you to that listing. If the listing has been through MLS multiple times, you'll see every time it's been through MLS. Okay? So I hope those tips help you out. And now, the queen of the Matrix Minute, Gail Padwick.
Hello. Okay. So, how many of you receive a ton of emails every day, and about half of them say #1 agent, and you're thinking they can't all be the #1 agent, right? So what I'm going to do is just show you your market reports and see how people actually can arrive at this. So across the top on your blue ribbon bar, we're going to go to market reports, and let's take a look at some of the things you can pull. Now the first one is the agent market share report. What this literally does is for the whole MLS, it shows you by volume the top 100 agents, and I'm just going to put in a date, okay? And when you generate that report, it comes up with the #1 agent in the MLS, and in this situation, it's Ben Caballero. So you're thinking, Ben, how does everybody else get to say they're #1? So keep in mind what they're probably doing is slicing the pie a little bit. For example, who's the #1 agent in Carrollton? Okay, so we've chosen Carrollton and we're going to generate that report. And let's see who pops up. So keep in mind, Jimmy Brownlee's actually the #1 agent in Carrollton. So that's how people, more than one person can say they're the #1 agent. It's just how you slice it up. So that's your first market report that you have here. Under market reports, you can say what's the #1 agent. You can also say what's the #1 office. So again, I'm just going to put in a date here, and that brings up our #1 office is the Keller Williams Southlake right there. Now, again, people can go in and say, well, maybe for a specific price point, I'm the best at $1 million and above houses, things like that. So if somebody says, I want to know who the best agent is out there, agent market share, best office, or highest transactions, that's going to be your office market share. Now you can do the same thing with the agent by market share by listed and office market share by listed. Those are the people with the most listings, either people or offices. Now, this next one, the agent production report. Basically, this is for you. Now, if you're an admin, this should probably be blank, but if you have any history in the MLS, when you run this, it should come up with, for example, Kathy. Doesn't have much going on here, Kathy. Not so sure about this. All right, but yeah. So basically, it shows you your transactions. Now, on the other hand, we have right below that in the MLS, we have the broker production and inventory report. This one is gold because an agent will come to you and say, hey, I'm trying to get my broker's license and I need every transaction I've ever done. Make that happen because you are magical because we're admins and we are, right? So what you can do is you can actually put in, for example, going back to maybe 2000, put in the person's license number. I'm going to use my ID and I'm going to generate the report right here. And so for a specific person, you can actually look at everything they've ever done. And oh my gosh, that Gail is such a slacker, isn't she? All right. So just realize what you guys have access to under these market reports. Who's the most productive agent in office, and then also by listings. And then the agent production, I'm not sure how helpful that's going to be for you, but the broker production report, anybody in the MLS, you can put in their license number and just see their activity. So helpful whenever the agent comes and says, I need to know what I did last year for my taxes. Can I get that now? Yeah, so actually you can do that for them. Yes, right? Now, the other thing that you have access to, how many of you have ever received the request, I want to send out just sold postcards. I bought a whole stack of them. And then you're going to magically help them make that happen, right? You can do that. So across, again, on your blue ribbon bar is this Realist tax icon. When we pop open Realist, oops, and mine closed. Let's try that again. We're going to pop open Realist again. And what happens is it pops open the Realist tax database. Now, this is where you can go in and create mailing labels. So this is incredibly helpful. One thing to keep in mind, when you're in Realist Tax, it'll either say multiple counties selected or it'll say a specific county. I like leaving it at a specific county because right underneath there's that recording date. Now, why that's important to you, that's the last time Realist synced up with the county appraisal district. So the recording date here is the 13th. So if something happened on the 16th, it's not going to be in Realist yet. So it's not live. So if you're looking for a recent transaction, you're not going to see it. But it is pretty good for the historical records and also for your mailing labels. Great question. For the big 4 counties, Dallas, Tarrant, Collin, Denton, they try to be no more than a month out. Outlying counties, a little bit less, but the big 4, they try to be no more than a month out. Okay. Now, under quick search, that's just your very basic search. If you were looking for a specific property, or my agent only could afford 10 postcards, so we're doing just their street, I can put in just a street, El Dorado, and if I spell it correctly, I can click search and it pulls up everybody on this street. Give it a second here. And so it already has them selected, and then down at the bottom, I can just click create labels. Okay. And you choose the size. Now, if you're, it comes up with Avery 50, 5160, 5162. Keep in mind, even if you use the generic brand, it always says same size as Avery. So that's what we're looking here. You can use mixed case, which is upper and lower case, or just all caps. And then if you're sending it to investors, it's the tax billing address. If you're sending it to the people who are actually in the house, you'd probably want to send it to the current owner or current resident. Okay. And when you create that label, give it just a second and it pops right up. So really that quickly, and bear with me just a second, you're going to have mailing labels ready to go. And you just put them in the printer and you're golden. Okay. So give it just a second. Okay. And it's really that easy. So that was just for one street. More likely what's going to happen is that instead of doing a quick search where you can do either one address or just one street, you're probably going to need to do a My Search. Let's see. So down at the bottom, if you'll notice, there's a place where you can edit the attributes. I'm going to click that. That changes how we're searching. Okay. So normally what I would tell you is whenever you're doing a new search, that little red circle right there clears out everything. But since I'm logged in as my boss, we're not going to change anything. So instead, what we're going to do is go down and we're going to choose subdivision right here. And I'm actually going to drag the subdivision up to the top and I'm going to click apply. Okay. And if you'll notice, I have this subdivision right here. So literally I click select from list and I do the subdivision. Okay. And I search. Now, the reason it comes up like this, if you'll notice, there's a La Cuesta Mesa 02 and there's a La Cuesta Mesa Roman numeral 2. It's because they're not very consistent with the tax records. So what I would tell you is probably you're going to want to just choose all of it. And I'm going to apply. And then again, I'm just going to do a quick little search. There we go. And then once I'm done with that, if I want to take out any, you definitely can, but you don't have to. I'm going to create labels on my Avery 5160s. I'm ready to go. And I click create, and just that quickly you have mailing labels for the entire subdivision. This is incredibly helpful if your agents are trying to do those just sold cards. I just pop it right up, load up my printer, and I am good to go. So just keep in mind, Realist Tax is where you go for mailing labels. And then also, don't forget about in Matrix your market reports where you can see who's number one and also pull reports on any agent, their history, either last year for their taxes or if they want to go back as far as the computer database goes for going for their broker's license. So, you know, in theory, this is where we pull who's number one. But the reality is we all know admins rule the world and you're number one. All right. So, tell you what, next person we have up is the lovely Barb, and I bet you didn't know this. In addition to being a great trainer, she has an incredible singing voice. So, we are so lucky to have her. Come on up, Barb.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, thank you, Gail. Fortunately, she hasn't heard me sing in the shower. That's good. All right, I have lots of good things to show you. I know that a lot of times your broker says, okay, we're going to have a staff meeting and I want some statistics, what's happened in a particular zip code the previous year or the previous 5 years. So we have a function for that in MLS. So at the top of the screen you have a button or a tab that says stats, and I'm going to click on it. On the left-hand side of the screen you will see many presets. So let's look at the historic sales by year. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put in a zip code. Maybe this is the zip code of the office or an area that your office really concentrates on, 75225. And I'm going to generate on the left-hand side of the screen. Well, I don't know about you, but that chart's a little hard to read. So up here in the top right-hand corner, there are 3 tabs. I'm going to click the tab that says Data. So it's by month. I can see in January in this zip code in 2010 there were 27 sales, and I go December there was 57 of that year, and so forth. There's another preset that you can look at as well. You can have the sales price to list price ratios. I'm going to keep the same zip code. I'm just going to click on that, click on generate, and then you can see the sales price compared to the list price. This is really good information because a lot of your brokers want to know how the prices are going. If they're setting it at a good list price, and what are they selling for? How close to that list price are they selling? So you can get that information here. And look, I've gone all the way back to 2011. So these are good, but I've got something even better than that, and that's the customize. First things first, I'm going to clear my search information up here on the top left, my other left, my right. I'm going to click search, and just like the MLS, there's a clear button on your search input screen. I'm going to click the clear button, so it erased whatever data I have put in there. So let's take a look at year to date for 2016. And again, let's put in a zip code, 75225. But you'll notice here on the left under statistic, I have a lot of choices, lots of choices. So we're going to do number of active listings in 75225 year to date. Let's see what's going on. I'm going to click generate. And once again, I can't read that very well, so I'm going to click the button that says data on the top right hand corner. So you can see year to date, it's really hopping there. We've got a number of listings, 157 in January. April was 243. Also notice down here you can export this information to a CSV file. It also tells you the date frame and from approximately 390 listings. All right, let's change this for just a moment, and let's look at the previous year in that zip code. Number of active listings I will generate. Wow, there you go. Looks like July of last year was pretty good, 228. Oh, 237 in June. So this is going to give you some good information what's going on in a particular zip code. But let's take this a little bit further. Let's narrow it down by an office code. So I want to see previous year. I want to see number of sales. And I'm going to click advanced option right down here. And I want to include, I can go back 5 years. I've got to change my search criteria. Instead of a zip code, I'm going to get rid of that. And just like WJ has shown you, you can add all kinds of fields. One of those fields that I already added some time ago, there was the listing office MLS ID and the selling office MLS ID. Well, since I'm looking for number of sales, I'm going to go to the selling office MLS ID, and I am going to put in, let's see, DPMA01, and I'm going to generate this report. And again, I'm going to click data or data. Check that out. This is what that office has done, and it gives me 5 years of history. So now your broker can go to the office meeting and say, we didn't do so good back in 2010 and 2011, but we're rocking it now. Look at 2015, look what we did. So that's a really good feature. I'm going to go up here to search, and I am going to keep that broker code, but I am this time going to change it, and I'm going to do the listing office, and I'm going to paste that. I'm going to go up here, and I want number of listings, but this time let's look at the dollar volume instead of how many. So I'll do dollar volume. I can do 5 years again, or maybe the last 3 years or 2 years, but I like the 5 years. I'm going to generate, and let's see what happens. Wow. So there's their dollar volume. That's for the office. Doesn't tell you, she showed you a great report on who's the number one office, who's the number one agent, but this is narrowing it down just a little bit further when your broker wants to see how much money, what they've done in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. You can also do it for an agent, because I know agents come to you and say, I want to know what I did. Can you help me? Well, yeah, sure. Buy me a cup of coffee and I'll help you. So I'm going to clear my input sheet. So we have an agent that wants to know what they've done the past 12 months, how many things they have sold. So let me go down here. Let's see if we've got, we'll do active instead of sold, because I want to make sure I get someone in there that has some numbers. So I am going to scroll down to where I see listing agent MLS ID, and I am going to put in 038575752. 0385752. Let's see what we got. Here it comes. All right, well, this is what the agent has done the past 12 months. December was a wee bit slow. I mean, they had 9. That's still good. And you will also notice at the bottom it found 86 listings, possibly too few to chart meaningfully, if I could say that word, meaningfully. So the next time an agent comes to you and says, I want to know what I've sold, what I've listed, can you give me those numbers? What you'll simply do is go to stats at the top of the screen. You can do presets if you would like, but I like customize because you can really customize it. Again, you can even put in a custom time frame when you select the custom number of active listings, sold, price changes, days on market. A lot of really good information that your broker, your sales manager can bring to the office meetings. All right, well, that concludes my part. Now I'm going to ask Heather to come up because she's going to lay some pearls of wisdom on you. Heather is another one of our instructors, so come on, Heather, lay it on them. Oh, shall we dance? Okay. Yay, Heather.
All right, guys, so what I'm going to show you today is how you can create a team. And the reason that's going to be so beneficial to you is y'all most likely work either directly for an agent or you help and assist the broker. When you create a team, it allows you to actually do things for that individual instead of them having to do the work because you're the ones doing the work behind the scenes anyway. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to first go to that admin tab at the top. Now I want to point out that only a broker or an office manager can create a team. If you don't have that access, not to worry. If you don't want to have them do it, let MLS know and we can create it for you. Okay, what you'll do is go to Manage Teams. Okay, and at the very top it says New Team Create. This is going to be the number of the individual you're going to be working under. Okay, so I'm going to use one of my coworkers here and I'm going to click Create. All right, now it shows me my team member's name right there. Okay, if it doesn't match, you'll need to change that information. Now down below, go ahead and click here to create that team. Now this is going to be your number. So you as the admin, you're going to put in that D number, the one that you would log in typically with. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and plug in my own information there and click Find. Now I get 2 options here. I can either impersonate that member or I can work on behalf of that member. So impersonate is going to be the best option for you as admins or assistants. And here's why. When you actually go in and you're doing something on a listing or maybe you're sending an email for that broker, it's going to actually say that it's coming directly from that broker, even though you're the one putting in the information. If you use the work on behalf option, it will actually say when you send an email, it will state your name, that you're working on behalf of that broker or that agent that you're assisting. Okay, now again, like I said, that impersonate me is going to be the best option for you as admins. So you'll go ahead and click on Add. Now you get one additional feature down here below. Now I have labeled it as Barbara's team. Okay, if you didn't choose that option, then when you actually log in and see their name, you'll just see the agent's name instead of it saying a team name. And I'll show you what that looks like. Okay. Now right up here, when you actually log in as you as the admin or assistant, you're going to see it says your name working as. Okay. If I click that option, I can now switch to Heather's team, or if I didn't label it as a formal team name, it would say the agent's name or broker's name there. You'll basically click that option and now it will state that you're working as that individual or team. Okay, so that will help you, especially if maybe your agent forgot to log out or something of a listing. You could go ahead and get into it and cancel it out and continue on with editing and doing what you need to do behind the scenes. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go back to the main page. So anytime you're not working as that individual, make sure you go back up to the top and click back on your name so it's under your name instead. Okay, so that's creating a team. Now the next part is actually creating a custom export. Why this might be important, we've already seen several reports that you can run, but if your agent ever wants to have all of those listings actually taken out of MLS in an Excel spreadsheet, you can do that. Okay, so I'll show you two separate ways you can create a custom export. First one is going to be going to My Matrix, all the way to the bottom to Settings. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom of there, you'll see Custom Exports. Okay? Now on the left are all the different exports you already have available. On the right is where you can actually create a new one. You'll select Add Export, and then at that top you'll see in yellow, that's that indicator. If it's yellow, you have to fill it in, okay? So you can call it whatever you would like to, but I'm going to go ahead and call this my export. Now on the left hand side is what you have available to choose from. What's on the right is what you have selected included in that report. So I'm going to go ahead and find a couple of options here and add them. Okay, and again, this is just depends on what you need included in that report. Okay, once you have all of the information you want on that right hand side, all you need to do is go to the bottom and click Save. Before you actually click Save, right here underneath the available options, you'll see it says None, Label, or Name. Always select Label, and here's why. When you actually extract that data from MLS, if you didn't select Label, at the top it's not going to tell you what that column was meant for. Then you have to go and do more work and plug in those titles. If you select Label, these labels here will actually show above each column. Okay? Now below that you have comma and tab. I suggest using comma. That's going to be your default. That's going to go into Excel spreadsheet. If you use a tab option, it's going to be like a Word Perfect or something of that nature, which is not usually the typical type of report you want to use. Okay? Once you select that, go ahead and select Save. Now, okay, well, I've created this export. Well, now how do I get my data? Okay? What you'll do now is you'll go ahead and go to your search screen, whatever type of search you need to pull information from. Okay? I'm going to just plug in some generic information so I can get a few results. Okay? And I'll do my actives only. Okay? So I have a handful of results. I'm going to go ahead and click here. Now I want to go ahead and export all 150 of these listings. All you're going to do is make sure you check mark all of them, or at the very top just select all and it will check mark everything for you. Okay? Now at the very bottom, and I'll scroll all the way to the bottom so you can see it, you have an export button. You click export, select from your display, find the one you just created, which is export here, click it, and then your report will then be downloaded. And when you download it, here's all that wonderful information that you just added for that export, including your listing information, etc. Now there's one other way you can create a custom export if you don't want to have to go to the settings feature. Just like WJ at the beginning of class had mentioned, that manage display button, if you click on that manage display, you can actually create the display here and say this is my export field. Okay, I'm going to save that as a copy. Now once I've saved that as a copy, if I scroll back down to the bottom and click export, I will now have that as my option to export. So you have two separate ways to do that. Again, click export and it downloads that information. Okay guys, well that's it for all of our sessions. I'm going to ask all of my colleagues to go ahead and join me back up here so that we can go ahead and go over our Q&A session and send it back to y'all.
Okay, guys, we are ready to answer your questions. We will stand here until everyone's questions are answered. We're not going anywhere. We're here for you guys, and so that includes the service center. So we're going to start here in the room in Dallas, and so please raise your hand. Amy, if you would please put on the screens in Dallas the service center so that the people here in Dallas can see the service centers as we go through. And we're going to start with, unfortunately, the people in the service centers can't see our Dallas folks, but that's okay. We can see you. So, who has a question here in the Dallas location that we can answer for you? Yes, ma'am, in the back. Okay. So this is an auto email you created, and that listing continues to come up in your as one of the new listings or a changed listing. So it would only come up in your email if it was a change was made to where it now fits a certain criteria. So if it was put back on market and it hadn't previously met the criteria, it would come up. It just kind of depends on your search criteria, and if the agent continues to make changes to it that would keep it popping up, then yes, it would come back in your feed over and over again, or in your auto email.
So
Gail.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. So you have an auto email, and somebody lists something, and then they make a change, and you see it again in your auto email, right? Okay. So if it matches the criteria again, you're going to get it again. Okay.
Like a price change or a status change. She said, "How do you verify over and over again? She'll get like 200, and only 50 are actually new."
Make sure the criteria is correct on that auto email. Verify that. Make sure there's not a mistake there. That's important.
And you can always call us, and we can actually take a look at the auto emails.
Yeah, because
and that
sometimes
may
we
be-
can look in your account and see how you have it set up, and we'll go, "Oh, that's it."
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Might be a little something, something.
Any other questions here in Dallas? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's sort of a legal question regarding the active status.
Yes, ma'am.
Suppose that you receive a listing agreement that basically, let's say it was made active today,
Okay.
27th, but the seller has decided, well, we don't want it in MLS just yet.
Right.
We want to wait a month.
Okay.
Which date should I put in as the effective date in MLS?
The list date in the MLS should be the date that you are making it active in the MLS.
In MLS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a little bit of a debate, but there's no definition in the MLS rules about that apply to the list date in the MLS. There's not an MLS start date. There's not a executed date. There's none of that. So what we tell people is when you're ready to make it active, that's going to be your list date in the MLS. Some people will debate that issue with me, and so it just depends on what you have in writing. But if they don't want it in the MLS for another month, then doesn't mean your listing agreement wasn't in effect a month ago. It just means that's good when it went active in the MLS.
Normally,
Okay.
in the listing agreement, don't they say something like to go in the MLS on such and such a date?
Or 10 days or 30 days from
Yeah.
today or something like that.
They should, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
they
if we
should,
could
they
get
should,
that
right, yeah.
Yes.
Got it. Any other questions here in Dallas? Okay. All right, Amy, let's move to Grapevine. Any questions in our Grapevine location?
Grapevine is open and we have at least one question.
All right,
Go
Paul.
ahead, Grapevine.
All right, Paula Woody, I see your hand up.
Okay. All right, how do we go in and change? Say there's an agent, they leave the office, but they have a listing, and they agree that the listing stays with us. Where do you go in and change the agent's name?
That's a great question. I can probably show you that really quickly here. Hold on. Amy, are they seeing my screen again?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to change it to
Okay.
your screen while you do this demonstration.
So I'm just going to go in and like I'm editing a listing. And Paula, you should be able to see this, and any of the admins should be able to see this where it says broker office change. Or excuse me, no, we're changing the listing agent. No, we're changing listing agent, right? Sorry about that. Okay. You should just be able to click on the residential link, go down to showing info, enter the new listing agent's MLS ID, whatever that is, it's going to be their license number. What's one of y'all's numbers?
0815081.
Did I get it?
No,
No, okay.
you did a combined.
One voice, please, yes.
0815081.
Okay. And then I'm gonna fill it, and now the listing belongs to Barbara Bach, and I'm gonna scroll down and click on Submit Listing. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna another one.
Okay?
Okay, so one of my agents put it in a listing, but she put it just a hold because so she took the pictures.
Okay.
And then the home office said, okay, we want to do something before you put it into the MLS. Well, she had all the information in there. And then when it went active, of course, she went in and clicked on active. But as you know, our name has changed from when it was in January and when it was in February.
Right.
But she put it in that other time frame, and it did not switch over when she made it active. Then in February, it says Remax on main, rather than Remax unlimited.
Right. You know, just go in and what we tell people is you need to touch the listing sometimes to make some of those office name changes pull through on the listings. So Paula, just go in and do like you're going to pretend edit it. Don't really, maybe make a small change in the remarks and then save it, and then that should refresh. Or you can go to that same place on the listing here. Let me show you real quick.
So you just bring the listing.
Yeah, go to the
Okay.
showing info, and then you can go to click on refresh here, or next to the agent's license number, and that should pull in the new office code.
That would pull in the new one?
Yes, it would. You just want to click on refresh and then save it.
Okay, so you just go ahead and show it and click on her and put refresh.
Just refresh, yes,
Okay,
and then that should
awesome.
pull in the new company name. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes they get stuck.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions in Grapevine? All right, well, thank you guys. Let's move over to Garland.
Garland is open.
Hello, Garland. Y'all packed the house today. Thank you very much. So who has a question? Who has a question? Y'all are just so smart. Yeah, y'all have been talking while we were talking. Y'all all figured it out. All right. Well, if you change your mind, raise your hands because we can see you and Amy can see you. And all right, smarty pants, we're moving on. All right, let's go to
Kathy?
yes.
I have a question from one of our webinar attendees.
Okay.
Is there a way to alert the agent via email when a change has been made to their MLS listing by our transaction team? And this question is from Brian.
There is not a way that the MLS will or that Matrix will generate that email. So no, there's not unless. No, I'm trying to think of an auto email type. It would have to be like a price change or something big, and they'd have to put that listing in an audit. It would be. I don't. No. No. The answer's no. Sorry. I'm trying. We're sitting here thinking out loud. So no, they would have to. Unfortunately, someone who would have to email the agent when the change has been made manually. Okay.
Thank you, Kathy. Are you ready to move on to Duncanville?
Let's go to Duncanville.
Duncanville, your mic is open.
Any questions?
We're good here.
Y'all are all smart there too. Fine. All right. Let's move on to Richardson.
Richardson ready.
Hello, Richardson. Ask us a question.
I'm sorry.
We're all smart here today.
Oh, well, we just did such a thorough job. That's what it was. I got it. All right.
That's right.
All right, and then we're missing Louisville. I don't see on the screen. Louisville?
Louisville left us, unfortunately.
Okay, I got it. All right, any more questions from the webinar attendees?
No, I don't have any questions at this time.
Y'all are just so smart. That's what it is. That's what it is. Well, guys, you know that we're always available to you. You know, we were kind of talking before the webinar started here in Dallas, and they were saying, well, we hate to bother you guys. No, that's what we're here for. That's why we're here to support you, not just the agents and the brokers, but you work for those people, and you work for our membership, and we want to help you because at the end of the day, you're helping them, and we've got to, you know, make everybody's life easier. That's what we want to do. That's why we're here. So anytime you ever need anything, our contact information is on that flyer that we gave you. Also, we're going to be sending everyone a link to a little web page that we created just for you guys. It's going to have video content, links to documents, links to the, you know, paperwork that you picked up today. And again, if you ever need anything from us, always please contact us or email us. We're here for you. Okay? Thank you all for being with us today. Yay!